everyone, and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, the 31st of March, 2021, and this is episode 176. My name is Carol. I can be found over on Ravelry as Knits and Pearls, and I can be found living here in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, just a little ways east of Vancouver. How's everyone doing? I hope you are all well, and I hope you are having as fabulous a day as I am. I can't keep it in, and I cannot wait until the end of the episode to share this week's Something Good with you. So I'm going to tell you my good news right now, right off the top, and that is that I am getting vaccinated tomorrow morning, and I could not be happier or more relieved. Ever since I booked my appointment this morning, I have been just on top of the world and walking on air and dancing on the ceiling and walking around with Perma-grin. It is not something I anticipated 24 hours ago, so it's happened all rather suddenly. Yesterday evening, I learned that our province had announced that people between the ages 55 and 65 were able to access the AstraZeneca vaccine from their local pharmacies starting today. And so first thing this morning, I phoned my pharmacy, and although they themselves are not administering the vaccine, they told me the two pharmacies in town that are. So the first one has 3 branches, so I got busy signals on the first 2, but at the third one I learned that they had already allocated all of their doses for the day, but that they might be getting some more this afternoon at 3:30 and to call back and see. So I decided to try the final location and got it answered right away, and was even given the choice of morning or afternoon appointment for tomorrow. So I booked an appointment for tomorrow morning for myself and my husband. And then meanwhile, my 2 sisters that are also eligible, the 3 of us were messaging back and forth with information and phone numbers and such. And they were also both able to get appointments for tomorrow, and so was my brother-in-law, who qualifies, and another brother-in-law was getting his today, and another is already scheduled for next week. So when all is said and done, we're only going to have one sister living here that will not be vaccinated yet. But she is a school principal, and she is slated to get hers soon through the province's rollout of the other vaccines. So I was expecting under that whole rollout to have to wait until either late April or sometime in May to get my vaccine. So it's just incredibly exciting to think that by this time tomorrow, I will be vaccinated with my first dose. So how do I even follow that up with, there is no more exciting news. Maybe I should have waited, but I just really couldn't. So I do have a couple of finished projects to share with you this week, one of which was not even cast on when I talked to you last time, and also a couple of works in progress, an up-and-coming project, and then a surprise acquisition that actually arrived just before I sat down to record. So settle in, I'll try and settle down, and let's get going. So I recorded a little segment about my first finished project, and I am going to insert that now. The first finished project I want to share with you today is Love's Promise by Amanita. Mine is knit from Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the Dahlia colorway. So as you can see, Love's Promise is an open front cardigan with 3/4 length sleeves. It is knit from the top down using raglan construction. The main body of the cardigan is stockinette, but it is finished off with garter stitch along the front bands, along the bottom of the hem, and at the cuffs. One of the features I really like is that this front band is bound off using an I-cord binding, and it looks really nice, gives it a nice finished look. In retrospect, I could have done the same even at the bottom of the sleeves. I think it would look nice there too. The cardigan also incorporates waist shaping at the back, which I think gives it a nice silhouette, a really nice tailored look. You have a choice of knitting the sleeves either straight or by incorporating decreases to make a tapered sleeve, and that's what I chose to do. I'm going to come in a little bit closer to show you a couple of other details that I really like. So one of those is that it features this really pretty lace panel that runs along each side seam, and also this little pleat at the bottom of the sleeves. And then I'll see if I can give you a good look at that I-cord bind off along the front edge. So I knit this cardigan to wear with this dress to my son's wedding at the end of April. I wanted to make sure I had some sort of layer in case the day is wet or cool or both. So as you can see at the moment, I have one long sleeve and one sleeve that's been pinned up to a 3/4 length, and that's because I'm in the process of shortening the sleeves. And that is why I couldn't try it on with the dress for you today. But I think the colors go really well, and I was really pleased to find this yarn in my stash. I didn't even have to go shopping. But I think it looks equally nice just with a t-shirt and jeans, and I can also see wearing this with a sundress on a cool summer evening or a cool spring day. So I can see myself actually getting a fair bit of use out of this cardigan. I am completely happy with the design of this sweater, but I do have a couple of issues, I guess, with the pattern. I'm just going to grab it now so I can refer to it. So my main concern is just that there's a lack of information in some cases. So for instance, the sweater is offered in 5 sizes from extra small to extra large, but other than telling you that the sample was shown in a size medium on a 36.5-inch bust, you're not really given many guidelines as to which size to knit for your size of bust. I ended up making the large to fit my just about 38-inch bust. There's not much in the way of finished measurements. All you're given are the sleeve circumference at the top here, the actual finished waist, and the actual finished hips. What I would have found helpful is more guidance of what size this sweater would end up being through the bust area, so that I could make a more educated choice on which size to knit for myself. And as you can see, if I am knitting a size large for a 38-inch bust, and there's only one more size after that, the pattern is really not very size inclusive. I usually knit a small, maybe a medium size pattern. Another thing that I would have found helpful when I was constructing it is to have a better idea of how many stitches I have on my needles at any one point. It does tell you at various points how many sleeve stitches you have after you've been working some increases along this top area. But I would have found it helpful to say, for this size, you should have X number of front stitches and X number of back stitches. in addition to the sleeve stitches, rather than just the number of sleeve stitches and then ultimately the number of total stitches once you have separated for the sleeves. So there's just a few sort of concerns about the pattern. It's pattern writing, but other than that, I really love how this turned out, and yeah, I think it's really cute. I had also should mention that I alternated skeins throughout the body, and then I used one of those skeins to knit the hem and the neck and front bands. And then I took the remainder of the second skein and I alternated every 2 rows with the third skein to knit the sleeves. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, maybe if I come in a little closer. Even though I knit the sleeves with the same 2 skeins of yarn, the right sleeve came out a little bit lighter than the left sleeve, but that's just the nature of hand-dyed yarns. And I was worried that there would be a really obvious line where I joined in the yarn for the sleeves, but I don't feel like that stands out. So I've been pretty pleased with how all the yarn management turned out. So now for this week's second finished project. So my second finished project is sitting here on my head. It is the Swivel Hat by Lee Meredith, and this is the worsted weight version. It also comes in a bulky weight version. This is knit from this yarn from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. This is the twist base, which is 100% Peruvian wool, non-superwash, and this is the Emergence colorway. So what's interesting about this yarn is not only is it striped, it also has these sections of marled yarn that run throughout the skein. So some areas are plain, some have this marling. So it makes for a really interesting knit. So I showed this yarn to you last week and told you I wanted to knit a hat. So I went looking on Ravelry for a pattern, and I wanted something that was really going to play with the striping. And I came across this pattern. I just thought it would be perfect. So I'm going to turn sideways and tell you a little bit more about how it's constructed. So as you can see, this hat is knit sideways. So you have this garter stitch brim, and then you do some increases and decreases in this area to form the patterning. And then you shape a series of wedges until you've done enough to fit all the way around your head. In my case, it was 10 wedges. And then you join the 2 ends, either with a seam or by grafting them together, or by doing a 3-needle bind off, which is what I did. And then what's really cool, if you look at the back, hopefully you can see it has this really cool swirl pattern at the crown. So I'm going to take this off now so you can get a little bit better look. So that's how it looks like this. Oops. So you can see that marling, how it's distributed throughout there. And then, in case you didn't get a good look at it, because I can't see what you're seeing, there's a swirl pattern on the crown. So I actually knit this hat twice through. The first time I used the suggested needle size, which is 4.5 millimeter needles, even knowing that I usually need to go down a needle size. And I did this because reading the pattern over, it said that it would give it a little bit of a slouchier hat. So, so I did knit it through. A few things were wrong with it. One, it was just a little bit looser than I wanted. One of the main problems is when it came time to joining the 2 ends, I was a few stitches short on the last end. So I had lost count of stitches, and knit a few together where I wasn't supposed to, and so I wasn't even joining up properly at the end. And then also, I was ending up with two green stripes side by side, but just a little stripe of yellow separating them. And I would really wanted to try and make it so that there wasn't any of those little skinny areas. So happily, by dropping down to a 4mm needle and keeping track after each wedge to make sure I had the right number of stitches, I had much more success the second time around. So it fits better. It's just the right size. And you can see this where I did a 3-needle bind off. It's hardly even noticeable. The now the patterns instructs you to do a crocheted provisional cast on. That's not really my favorite cast on. I instead did Judy's Magic Cast On, and I slipped half the stitches onto waste yarn, and then I began knitting with the first half. In the pattern, if you do cast on provisionally, whether you cast it on provisionally or cast it on normally, you're supposed to start with a setup row, but it meant you had to be working a wrong side row, and with the Judy's Magic Cast On, I needed to be working a right side row. So I skipped the setup row and I went straight to the first row that you're supposed to work if you do a provisional cast on. And as a result, when I got to the end and joined them together, I'm missing a garter ridge right here. This stitch should be a garter stitch, or this row should be a garter stitch row. It is such a minor thing, and when I have it on and when the hat's slouching down, like nobody's ever going to see it. And not only that, it gives me at a quick glance, I know where the back of my hat is, so I am not troubled by that whatsoever. So yeah, I really like it. One thing too with the marled yarn on my first version, it wasn't terrible, but I found there was more pooling with that, where on my second attempt, those marled areas are better distributed throughout. So I'm really, really pleased with my second go round. And I've got this to match like a lightweight jacket that I own. The best part is I have like half a skein left over. So I have enough for another hat, or maybe a cowl, or maybe even weaving a scarf, or I guess even knitting a scarf. I could combine it with another yarn. I haven't decided yet. Part of me just is kind of thinking about just then now knitting a hat with normal construction, you know, your usual construction from the brim up. Haven't decided yet, but this worked up super quick. I started it one afternoon, and the next morning I finished my first version, wasn't happy with it, frogged it, cast on the new one, and I think I finished it that night. So it was just a very, very quick knit. But yeah, isn't that pretty? I love the yarn. It's really fun, really spring-like. And I was able to also enter this in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Nature Make Along. So had a lot of fun with that. I, as you know, mostly knit shawls, socks, and sweaters. I don't knit hats very often, so it's quite a gratifying project to have it just work up so quickly like that. Okay, I'm going to just have a quick sip of tea here. Now that it's spring, I've brought my Dandelion David's tea mug back out. I love this cup. No dandelions yet that I've seen, but my daffodils, a bunch of them are blooming right now, but we are still waiting for the grass we planted a week ago to sprout. And I'm really hoping that it's warm enough, and I'm really hoping that all the grass seed doesn't just rot and that we have to do it all over again. So cross fingers and toes. Okay, so that's it for finished projects. I have a couple of works in progress. One, of course, is a pair of socks. which I am knitting from Zabberball Crazy. Just looking for the label here. Here it is. Oops, I've got scissors tangled on here. There we go. So Zabberball Crazy. This is the colorway Route 66, which is color number 2311. You can see kind of how it knits up there. This is the ball. And this is sock number 1, all knit up. Isn't that nice? 64 stitches on a 2mm needle, top down, with, I did a yarn over short row heel, drawing yarn from the other end of the ball so that this striping would be uninterrupted. So there's sock number 1, and sock number 2 is about halfway done. I just did the heel on it yesterday. So that's how that one's going. And again, I just drew from the other end of the ball to do the heel. So coming along very nicely. I love this yarn. I just have been enjoying the Zabberball Crazy yarn so much. So just love to see how the different colors come up, and I just like the way the yarn feels in my hand. It's a little bit of a rustic yarn, but it's just so pretty, all the different colors in it, and love seeing how all the different colors emerge. So I'm really enjoying those. And then speaking of lots of colors and seeing how they emerge, I've been continuing to work on Perfect Blend by Casapinka, and I am knitting that with 12 minis from Midnight Cravings, and it's the Kindred Spirits collection. So rattle, rattle, rattle. I have all my little mini skeins wound up into balls in these 2 bags. There's their label. So each of the, let me think if this is correct. Yes, each of the sort of variegated skeins represents a character from Anne of Green Gables, and then all of the more semi-solid or tonal ones represent something from the book. They refer to like Broken Slate, and Afternoon Tea is another, Green Gables is another. So it's kind of a fun set. And I am now on the 3rd to last stripe. So I'm getting into some of the fun colors again. So again, I'll just kind of give you a look from one end to the other. As you can see, it's a asymmetrical triangular shawl. You start out alternating stocking stitch and garter stitch, and then you start alternating patterned sections with the garter stitch. And that's been really fun, not only changing colors frequently, but also changing stitch patterns. That's kept it really interesting, because every section is like a mini project. So I think I was on this section last week, and as you can see, I've done another garter section, another patterned section, and then I'm about halfway through this garter section. So I only have 2 more colors after this, which are rattle, 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 these 2. This is Marilla Cuthbert, and that's Amethyst Brooch. So it ends with this one. So I am very close to being done, depending on how much I get done on it in the next week. This could be an FO by next week, which would be really good, because I've had this going for a while, and then I had to put it aside while I was working on my daughter-in-law to be's wedding shawl and my wedding cardigan. So it's been fun to pick that back up again. Another project that a project that I'm really excited to be casting on very, very soon, or possibly even tonight, is the third pattern in the Handmade Sock Society collection by Helen Stewart that was released yesterday, and this is the Wild Bees socks. And this is a lace pattern, just runs up the front of the sock. It has a what do you call it, eye of partridge heel, and other than that the back is just plain stockinette. So today I went through my stash and I didn't really see anything that was suitable. I've really been trying to knit from stash for these collections, but this time I decided that nothing I had would quite do. And so I went online and looked at, I have a local to me yarn shop called Black Cat Custom Yarn, who specialize in their own hand-dyed yarn. And I found a colorway I thought would be just perfect for it. So I called the store and they did have it in stock. And so I picked it up today while I was out running some other errands. And it is this color, which is very similar to what's shown. I think the one on the pattern, if you see the photos of it, it's actually more of a golden honey color, where this is sort of like an orange marigold. That's how they describe it, like a marigold color on their website. And it is Black Cat Custom Yarn Everyday Sock in the Flower Bridge colorway. And that is an 80% superwash merino wool, 20% nylon blend. So it's also nice to have a little visit with the people at Black Cat also, because I don't think I've been there since the pandemic started. They only do like curbside pickup and mail order now, so you can't go in and browse. But when I went to pick it up, I had a good chat with them. So anyway, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful color, and it's coming out really well on camera. So nice springy, another nice springtime color. And since it's flower related, Flower Bridge, this will work well also for the Fiber Nymph Dyework Nature Make Along, as long as I finish them by the end of April. So I will try. There's another motivation to try and get this pattern done before the next one is released. So far I'm 2 for 2. So then just not long before I sat down to record, the doorbell rang, and I wasn't expecting anyone and I wasn't expecting anything. I've been pretty good this week, and other than that yarn, I haven't bought anything. And so I got this envelope, and I thought maybe it was a mistake because I hadn't ordered anything. But it turned out to be a very lovely gift from a viewer and knitting friend. And it is this book called Green Gables Knits. It is by Joanna Johnson, and she's the person who's done Phoebe's Sweater and other books. This is a whole as you can see, Patterns for Kindred Spirits. So it's patterns all with an Anne of Green Gables theme, which works out perfectly with what I've been knitting lately, and I've been reading the Anne of Green Gables books lately too. So I know Susan knew that. So what Susan said, and Susan is Knits and Reads, she's in our Ravelry group. She said, I hope you had a wonderful birthday. This little book is for you to keep or use for a giveaway after you've read it, your choice. So what I'm actually going to do is both. There's a couple of patterns in here that I would like to knit, and then I am going to offer it up for a prize once I have used it. So thank you so much, Susan. I haven't even had a chance to drop her a line yet, but I will do so after I record and before this goes live. But how very, very thoughtful and I'll show you some of the patterns in here. They did a really good job with their models, making them look like characters. So there's a picture of Lucy Maud Montgomery for real. And then throughout the book are photos of places that are related to her. Like there's the train station and such. So there's this Anne's carpet bag pattern. So as you can see, the model looks a lot like Anne of Green Gables. I'm not sure if this was filmed at Green Gables or not. Maybe it says somewhere in here. I've hardly had a chance to really look at it carefully. There's Matthew's vest. He looks a lot like the actor who played Matthew in the Canadian Anne of Green Gables from, it's probably the 80s or 90s. Trying to think of the actress who played Anne. Her name is escaping me at the moment. There's Marilla's apron. There's a picture of it on. Oh yeah, there's Marilla and Matthew together. I really like this one, Diana's hat. And I love that bright cherry cordial kind of colorway they used for it. So I could see myself making that hat. There's more views of it. I like the kind of pleating in the brim there. Rachel's table runner. Miss Stacy's shawl. And then this is another one I thought I would make, Anne's sweater. And what I really like is this sweater just looks like a great comfy around the house cardigan. It has little pockets here. So I would like to make that sweater. I think that's, oh no, Gilbert, can't forget Gilbert. He has a scarf. Pretty good looking young man. I can see why Anne would be attracted to him. Oh, and there they are, hand in hand. So lovely book. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Susan. And like I say, I will make use of it, and then I will pass on this lovely book so someone else can enjoy it. So look for that in, well, the coming months, maybe even coming years. We'll see how quickly I get the things knit up. But thank you, thank you. Very, very sweet and considerate of you. Such a surprise, you have no idea. Just added to my fabulous day. Okay, not much going on besides that. It was very enjoyable Sunday, well, at noon my time, 3 o'clock her time. Lisa of Fiber Nymph Dye Works hosted a Zoom call, and she had talked about it on her latest podcast episode. She does 90% knitting, and if we were interested, we could let her know, and she sent us the link. So that was, I think there was probably about try to think of all the squares going across, maybe a dozen or so people, including a couple of people who watched this podcast, which was an extra great surprise. I wasn't expecting that. I'm just really enjoy Lisa's podcast, and so it was an extra bonus to get to talk in person to a couple of people who sort of know me through this, and it was really enjoyable. It lasted about an hour, and there were people from all over the US, and yeah, so thanks, Lisa, for hosting that. It was very enjoyable, and you've talked about doing it again, and I hope you do. I would love to do that. And that is my son calling, because I told him to phone after work. So I'm going to put on pause, and I'll record the rest in a bit. as I suspected, that was my son calling. I was just surprised that it's already after work for him. This afternoon has just flown by. So I better get cracking and finish this up, or next thing you know, my husband's going to be calling and telling me he's on his way home from work. At least it gave me time to warm up my tea because it had gone cold. So I've been altering a couple of shirts for my son, one of which is for the wedding. So I just needed to talk to him about that. I feel bad for them. Their plans are still in flux. It's not easy getting married in the time of COVID and making sure that you're following all of the rules and regulations. And unfortunately, our cases here in BC have risen again, and we've had even tighter restrictions put on just a few days ago, one of which is restaurants are now closed except for patio service, carry out, and delivery. So that's kind of tough on the restaurants. That goes to at least April 19th. So I'm hoping that that we can get a handle on things again, see case numbers go down, and hopefully restrictions like that and vaccines will help that happen. So I think we're all pretty tired of this and want to see life get back to normal. That is probably my husband. I'll be right back. And as I also suspected, that was my husband calling to say he's on his way home from work. So I have about 15 minutes to wrap things up. So yesterday he took the day off work and he drove me into my appointment with an allergist. It was about an hour's drive from here. And if you've never had an allergy test, which I never had, they poke all these little needles into your forearms and they contain various allergens, and then they see how you react to them. So you can see I've got all these teeny weeny dots all over my forearms. As it turned out, I am not allergic to anything that they tested me for, which surprised me a little bit. I was fully expecting to test positive for dust mites or some other type of household allergen, because for as long as I can remember, I've always dealt with, stuffy, runny nose. I've always had to carry a Kleenex with me. But apparently it's not an allergy. So I guess I need to figure out what it is and how to treat it. But then also, so learn that, and then also now we can rule out allergies as a trigger for the asthma-like symptoms I've been experiencing since last fall. So it's one more test that's been done and one more cause ruled out. So the next thing up is a breathing test. Everything's just all backed up because of COVID, and so I haven't even gotten a call for an appointment yet. So hopefully that happens soon, and they'll learn more from that. In the meantime, I just have to carry on treating things as I have been, and things are under control. So that's just fine. I guess just once they have more information, they can decide if there's some other treatment that is necessary. So that's where I'm at with that. And then we ran a few errands while we were out in the area, and then we got home, had lunch, and then we decided to take advantage of the day off and went golfing for the first time this season. So Cameron had put Christmas money towards a new golf cart, and then he put birthday money towards having all of his clubs regripped. So he was anxious to get out on the course and try those things out. So there's a little par 3 course close to us that we went and played. It took about 2.5 hours. It wasn't really sunny, but it was pleasant out, and we just had a really nice time. Had some good shots, some bad shots, some good holes and some bad holes, as always. But made a few birdies. Or made a few bogeys. That's 1 over par. And I even got a birdie, which is 1 under par. And that's a very, very rare occurrence for me. So I was very excited about that. And I think on that happy note, it's time to say goodbye. I've already shared my best news with you right off the top. So, yeah, by this time tomorrow, I will have received my first COVID-19 vaccination. And I'm just ecstatic about it, in case you can't tell. So I hope that wherever you are, that if you have not already received yours, that you will soon be able to get it if you wish. And in the meantime, stay well, stay healthy, stay safe. I hope to talk to you again about the same time next week. I just realized it's Easter this weekend. That's kind of snuck up on me, although not entirely. We did pick up some treats for the grandkids, so we'll make a point of seeing them sometime this weekend, although it's supposed to be raining, I think. I'm not sure how possible a long outdoor visit will be, but we'll be able to at least have a short visit with them this weekend. Um, so if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter to you. And I believe Passover began last weekend, so happy Passover to those of you who celebrate that holiday. So take care, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully again next week. Bye.